I used to think I was being kind when I agreed to take 3 more children on my caseload, even though others weren't taking any more children, and even though I was exhausted. I thought I was being kind when I told my boyfriend it's okay because he forgot my birthday and I didn't want to hurt his feelings. But I was wrong. It wasn't being kind at all. I was just being nice. And there's a huge difference. What's up, everyone? Happy Monday. Welcome to my channel. And today we're diving into something that completely changed how I view my relationships and interactions with people. We're talking about the difference between being nice and being kind, and why understanding this distinction might be the key to having healthier relationships, personal and professional, and just living according to who we really are, not according to what we're trying to get from someone else. How many of you have suffered from the nice girl syndrome your whole life? Like me. I'm 50 now, and I spent the first 45 years being a nice girl, trying to make everybody else happy, while inside I was absolutely miserable. And, as I've said to other friends, I felt like I was dying inside. Couldn't even describe it, but it just was that feeling. So, what does it mean to be nice? When most of us think of nice people, we always think of, maybe somebody that says yes, avoids conflict at all costs, tells people what they want to hear, and keeps the peace even when it's not peaceful underneath. You keep the peace, except inside there is just, it feels like a volcano that's about to erupt. Here's the thing about being nice. It's often more about the person doing it than the person receiving it. And let's think about what are some of the motivations around being nice. It's typically motivated by fear of rejection or disapproval. Check. Definitely did that those first 45 years. I just wanted to be approved and accepted by everybody in school. And I just played nice girl my whole life. And as a result, guess what? I had no friends in school. I wanted to be liked so badly. And that came from a deeper internal insecurity and a place where I just didn't love myself. I didn't like myself. And that manifested in different ways. Eating disorders. I definitely played out in relationships. Nice behavior is motivated by avoiding uncomfortable conversations. I hated uncomfortable conversations. And I took the hit for a lot of stuff just because I didn't want to have that uncomfortable conversation. I wanted to keep the peace. I wanted to keep the friends that I had, even if they weren't being kind to me. Nice behavior was also motivated by maintaining a certain image, right? And that people can see you as, wow, she's really nice. She's so nice. How many times I got, it was like some fuel, something that was charging me up by hearing somebody had said that they perceived me as nice. So I had to keep living up to that image. And I suffered inside. Now, don't get me wrong, politeness and courtesy are important, but when being nice becomes people-pleasing, it can actually be harmful. Now, how many of you have felt harm from being that people-pleaser? We'll go into that more in a little bit. But let's talk about what it means to be kind. Kindness, on the other hand, is completely different. It's telling someone the truth they need to hear, even when it's hard. Now, I can relate to that one, especially with, just a few years ago, a friend was giving me tough love. And she told me something I didn't want to hear. And it was really hard. But deep down, was she trying to be mean? Or was she really concerned about how I was losing myself and miserable and spending time on someone who wasn't valuing and cherishing me? Kindness is about setting boundaries that protect both you and others. It's about saying no when saying yes would enable harmful behavior. Kindness is about acting in someone's best interest, not just their immediate comfort. If you look at the motivation about kindness, it's motivated by genuine care and respect for others. Understanding that, we are one and care for another. It's about doing what's right, not what's easy, and not what makes you look good. Now, I can reflect on this in my nonprofit. So sometimes we have situations where we have to be kind and be honest. And it's really for the best interests of the other person. And if I continued being nice in this situation, probably the business would crumble. There's no space for being a people pleaser when you are running a business. Here's another example when it comes to friendships. If your friend is struggling with addiction, being nice might mean enabling them by giving them money or making excuses for their behavior, maybe even going out with them. But being kind means refusing to enable them, offering support, coming up with solutions with them, having difficult conversations about getting help. The nice person avoids the discomfort, and the kind person embraces it because they genuinely care about the outcome. Think about that. The nice person avoids the discomfort. The kind person embraces it because they genuinely care about the outcome. So let me give you some real, some concrete examples of how this plays out. I've got a few examples here, and this might resonate with you. Let's talk about the workplace. I've already brought up a couple of examples about work, but here's another one. Nice, saying yes to every single request, working late constantly at the sacrifice of your family, never speaking up about unreasonable deadlines. Now, how many of you have been nice in the workplace? Now, I feel like in our society, we're kind of forced to be nice. When you think about, when I worked in New York City Department of Education, it's a huge system. And we were written up if we said no to something, written up for insubordination. So the system was already designed for us to be nice. Because what? If I said no, I can't do anymore here. We were written up for insubordination. If the supervisor told me this is what you need to do, I would get written up. So we're also looking at a cultural construct that is, frankly, a piece of bullshit that keeps us in this place of playing nice out of fear of losing our job or consequences, unreasonable consequences. Now, on the other hand, in the workplace, let's talk about what kindness looks like. It means setting clear boundaries, communicating your capacity honestly, and suggesting realistic solutions. I love that word, capacity. I often use it in my workplace. I use it in my life. If somebody asks me to do something, this is coming from a recovering nice girl. I say, sorry, I don't have the capacity for that. Think about capacity. To go back to high school science class, you've got your pitcher of water, right? Empty. It's got so much capacity now. You fill it up with water and you keep filling up all the way to the top. Now, how much capacity do you really even have anymore in that pitcher? Right? How many of us go through life with that pitcher so full and we take on more? So feel free to use that line. I don't have the capacity for that. So again, setting clear boundaries, communicating your capacity honestly, and suggesting realistic solutions. Let's talk about real-world example as far as friendships go. Nice means agreeing with everything your friend says, even when they're making poor decisions. Being kind in a friendship, offering honest feedback, being supportive while also being truthful, and caring enough to risk temporary discomfort. Now, as far as that feedback goes, when nobody's going to hear you when they're not in a place to receive your message. So I truly believe everybody has to be in consensus. If I just came at you telling you what my feedback is and you're not even in a place, I'm going to shut down. I'm not going to listen to you. And that's happened because you didn't get my permission to give the feedback. And there's a difference there in kindness. And when I have plenty of conversations with friends on a daily basis. And if there's something in there that I want to offer feedback, I don't just come out and say it. I ask, hey, can I give some feedback on this? And more often than not, I get, yeah, please. And then it's heard, it's received. Let's talk about nice and kind in romantic relationships. Nice is avoiding difficult conversations, pretending everything is fine when it's not. My gosh, I did that in all my relationships. There's so many ruptures that would happen, never any repair from them, and I just went on saying, all right, everything is fine. Now, how about kindness in a romantic relationship? Addressing issues directly, communicating needs clearly, and working through conflicts together. Now, I want to go back to something with romantic relationships and relationships. As you start to speak your truth in a kind way, if you're used to being the nice girl and avoiding conflict, not having those difficult conversations, and then slowly you start shifting into being kind and addressing the issues directly and communicating your needs, it is possible that the other person is not going to receive this and they might move out of your life. I had that happen to me quite a bit in the past 5 years. And that was as a result of me, stopping this nice girl cycle and actually stepping into being kind. But how they react, if you're doing things from a place of kindness, is not your problem. What your problem is, I don't even want to call it a problem, what you need to focus on is continuing to be kind and true to yourself. If it's not received, the question to ask is this relationship in the highest for me? Now let's talk about parenting. I'm not a parent, but I run a parenting program. I'm a dog parent. And I definitely have lots of friends who tell me about the dynamics in their relationships, and I see it as well. Nice is giving into every demand to avoid tantrums, being the fun parent who never enforces rules. I just had a conversation with someone recently that the one parent is the fun parent, never enforces rules. And my friend has become the mean parent because she sets boundaries. So in being kind, as far as parenting goes, it's about setting consistent boundaries, teaching consequences, prioritizing long-term development over short-term happiness. So if you are that nice parent, always being nice, always trying to get your child to like you, being the fun parent, and you want to just get your child something, I'll just rewind a little bit. Watch a child next time they're playing. I was just with a child on Friday, and I was watching, and she had a whole play area set up, but she was going from one thing to the other, no more than 20 seconds at a time. So yeah, you can give in to your child and get them what they want because they're having a tantrum. It's not going to last long, and you're going to have to keep doing it over and over and over again. So what is more sustainable? Long-term happiness, long-term development, or those short spurts? Now let's talk about why this matters so much. Why does this distinction between nice and kind matter? First, being nice often creates resentment. And I chuckle at that because I spent that whole first act of my life being resentful and angry because I was being so nice and I didn't know how to get out of it. When you constantly say yes, when you mean no, you build up that frustration, that anger, the resentment, and you start to resent the people you're trying to please. That was the irony of it all. I was resenting the people that I was being nice to. And I created a story in my head. I have to be nice to you. Did I? Second, being nice can actually harm relationships. People can sense when you're not being yourself, and it creates distance. And when you're not, being yourself, you're not giving people the opportunity to really know you. I saw this happen. It harmed relationships. And when I started to really be myself and speak up and step into more kindness rather than nice girl, and gave people the opportunity to get to know me, yeah, some moved out of my life, and that's okay. It was hard at first. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I wasn't saying, yeah, I'm being kind. They laughed. No, I was on the floor crying and grieving over the loss of friends and partners. But at the end of it all, I was being true to myself. Third, being nice often enables poor behavior in others. When you don't set boundaries or you don't speak up about problems, you're essentially giving permission for those behaviors to continue. But kindness, on the other hand, it builds trust. When people know you'll tell them the truth no matter what, they'll value your opinion more. When you set boundaries, people respect you more. When you're authentic, when you are yourself, relationships become deeper and more meaningful. Now, let's talk about how to shift from nice to kind. How do you make that shift? Here's some practical steps. And this first one is such an underestimated tool. You hear it in the personal development world about awareness. Awareness is so powerful. I want you to notice when you're being nice versus kind. Take a few seconds of pause. Move yourself back physically from the situation and say, am I doing this because it's genuinely helpful, or am I doing it because I'm afraid of their reaction? Once you start to be aware, it changes everything. If you're looking to shift into a different version of yourself, where you're not the people pleaser, where you're not the nice girl, where you're done being a doormat, it's going to start with self-awareness. And giving yourself those 2 seconds of pause allows you to change the dynamic in what you're going to be doing. All it takes is one time for you to do something differently, and you've created a new pathway to go on, to journey on even more. Practice saying no. Start small. When someone asks you to do something you don't want to do, try saying, let me think about it and I'll get back to you. I use that with my friends all the time, and they use it with me. I don't get offended, and they don't get offended. Try using my line. I'm sorry, I don't have the capacity for that. When you say that, when you don't immediately say yes, and you don't commit to the no, like I said, start small. It gives you time to decide what you want to do based on your values, not your fear. Get comfortable with discomfort. And kindness often requires having difficult conversations. And remember that temporary discomfort often leads to bigger, better long-term outcomes. I have a personal development coach. He's incredible. And he has us doing something uncomfortable every day. And the feeling that it brings up in my body when I do that uncomfortable thing, it just makes me want to go back to comfortable. But I know that doing that uncomfortable thing on a daily basis is shifting me. Doing it while I'm uncomfortable is shifting me. So it's okay. Get comfortable with the discomfort. Focus on your intention. Before you act, ask yourself, what's my intention here? Am I trying to help this person, or am I trying to manage how they see me? Do I really have their best interests at heart, or do I just want to be liked right now? Or am I scared to not be liked? And lastly, set boundaries with love. When you start to connect with yourself, you start to get a bigger understanding of the universe. You start to not see yourself separate from another person. If we can recognize those qualities in other people that we're just not happy with, it's because we have those qualities within ourselves. Everything is a mirror reflection. So return to love. So you can be firm and caring at the same time, and that's what kindness looks like. Just because you're setting boundaries doesn't mean it has to be, stomping my feet while I say what I want. It doesn't have to be that way at all. Set the boundaries with love. Now, let me address some common misconceptions about being nice versus kind. Misconception 1 is kind people are mean or harsh just because of that truth quality, because they're not trying to be liked. Reality, no. Kind people can be incredibly warm and loving while still being honest and boundaried. I like to consider myself a kind person now. With the connections in my life, I intentionally am warm and loving towards them. But I'm also very honest and boundaried with them. Second misconception. If I'm not nice, people won't like me. Here's the reality. Yeah, people might initially be surprised by how you're showing up, but they'll ultimately respect and trust you more. And if you are being yourself and you're being honest and truthful and you're not trying to just be liked, and people, as a result of that, if people don't like that, they're going to move out of your life. But you're going to have people who are surprised but stick around because they respect you for that quality in you. The third misconception. Being kind means being brutally honest about everything. No. It includes wisdom about when, how, and what to communicate. It's about being helpful, not just honest. Right? It's not just about when you're on a phone call with somebody, you're just jumping in and giving your feedback about something. It's actually being aware. Okay, is this appropriate for me to say this now? Or maybe I should come back to this later and address it. Maybe I need to text message and say, hey, can we talk about this? So here's what I want you to remember. Nice is about comfort. Kind is about care. Nice is about avoiding conflict. Kind is about creating genuine connection. Nice is about how you appear. And kind is about the impact that you have. Now, in 2025, this world doesn't need more nice people who avoid difficult conversations and enable poor behavior. The world needs more kind people who care enough to be real and to set boundaries and to prioritize long-term well-being over short-term comfort. So I challenge you for the next week, before you act, ask yourself, am I being nice or am I being kind? Ask yourself throughout your day. And just see how this simple shift, this simple awareness changes your relationships and your own self of yourself, your own concept of yourself. Your sense of who you are. So if this resonated with you, hit that like button and let me know in the comments. What's the one area where you're being nice instead of being kind? How are you going to change that? And if you want more content on building, real, lasting, strong relationships where you get to show up as you, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell.